Good morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning is Scott the Cow Guy Shalady,
Good morning.
Fox Business regular. And last night, Trump was rallying his faithful in Duluth, Minnesota. Believe they can get Minnesota. They really strongly believe that Minnesota is in play, that Trump can win Minnesota. It's a weird year. It could be a year in which Trump wins Minnesota and loses Arizona.
Well, I
Imagine that.
It's such a weird year that I think with the government planning on it being a contested election, it won't be because they never get anything right.
Yeah, never thought about it that way. That's true. Whatever all the conventional wisdom outside the Beltway that is conventionally wrong. Yeah, that's the conventional wisdom. So assume the opposite. That's not a bad.
That's my thoughts.
That's the thought of somebody who analyzes markets. Wherever the herd is going, go the other direction.
Exactly right.
Trump striking some of the themes that are consistent with the RNC talking points that came out right after Tuesday night's debate into Wednesday morning, surrogates for the campaign, stressing a couple of themes that Trump reiterated at the rally.
Last night I did what the corrupt media has refused to do. I held Joe Biden accountable for his 47 years of lies, 47 years of betrayal, and 47 years of failure. I held Joe accountable for shipping your jobs and dreams abroad and for bowing to the violent mob at home. Can you imagine these people, the way they take over these Democrat cities? I don't even believe it. The whole nation saw the truth. Did you see last night? Name one. I said, Sleepy Joe, name one law enforcement group that supports you. And then Chris Wallace says, don't do that. That's not. Can you believe this guy? I was debating two people last night. Joe Biden is too weak to lead this country.
Dominance versus weakness. That's clearly one dichotomy the campaign wants to present. And 47 versus 47, the record. 47 years versus 47 months, the record. Trump may want to do a better job of focusing on his 47-month record in the next debate, I'd suggest. But for more on the post-debate fallout, pleased to be joined again by David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun, From the Revolution to Today. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So those themes that you heard, dominance versus weakness, and law and order sort of is a subhead of that dichotomy, and then the record. Does that make sense to you from a Trump campaign perspective?
It does. I don't know that he. I think he was a bit too aggressive in pushing those messages the other night. Only in that. I think Biden was tripping over himself quite often, and then Trump would just jump on him and yell at him. And I think that when you read and my colleagues actually have pointed this out to me, but when you read the transcript, Trump actually comes off much better. And I think if he pulls it back a little, he'll probably do better next debate.
You know, I was told it's a much more interesting debate if you actually just listen to it and not watch it, because you actually do pick up a lot more of the topics. I think that's a very, very good point.
Yeah, I don't think that Biden, as far as policy goes, or anything that matters in that way that isn't about Trump, I don't think he said anything, really. In fact, he didn't say. It was just a bunch of platitudes. And that obviously that's the case typically with politicians. But I think Trump had a lot more he laid out a lot more specifics about who he is and the things that he believes. And whether you like that or not is a different story.
Yeah, it would have been nice for Trump to point that out amid all the bluster, to say, look, listen to this guy. The guy who just told me to shut up. This guy. All he's offered you all night is platitudes and calling me names. I haven't called him names. I disagree with him on policy. I've properly describe the policies he signed on to with Bernie Sanders and the manifesto they created together, and so on and so forth. If he would just sort of, you can be pointed, but just lay out what he's doing so you can get some heads nodding at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is the way that we conduct debates in this country, which I don't think are great, with time limits. I think I'd much rather see them, be allowed to continue conversations when they're interesting, because I think, listen, I like Chris Wallace in general, but I don't think he did a very good job at all. And that doesn't just go for him trying to losing control of both of them. It goes with the questions he asked, which were framed in ways, I think, many of them, at least four, in ways that benefit Democrats and did the work for Joe Biden. So I think that Trump felt like he had to ask the questions himself, and he wasn't shy about it.
The Presidential Debate Commission saying yesterday that the debate, quote, made clear that additional structure should be added to the format of the remaining debates to ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. What do you say to that?
Less. We need less. I mean, it's no, in the real, listen, if you had two experts debating some policy, yeah, I understand we have rules of debates that, have organically come together over hundreds of years. We don't need that with two partisans. I think you just have to let them, I wrote a column yesterday, I mean, you just got to let them fight it out. And if Trump's going to be aggressive, that's a risk he takes because voters see that. They might like it, they might not. But you have to just let them speak. We don't argue in 2-minute increments. It doesn't make sense. I don't think that in the modern world we need to be constrained by these kind of time restrictions that were brought on by television in the 20th century. So I think they could do better.
There was a moment where Chris Wallace, who chimed in way too often and way too petulantly, as far as I'm concerned, when he said, "I'm the moderator," I was waiting for Trump to say, well, "That's interesting. I'm the president of the United States, and he's running for president of the United States, and this is about us and what we would promise to deliver for the American people. So stay out of our way."
Yeah, he should have. I mean, throw up a topic, let them go at it. This, the way that he and the exact way he framed it slips my mind, but the racial sensitivity instead of critical race theory, things like that. That is the debate, right? The debate is in the question. So that's truly begging the question, and it's not the way I think someone should conduct a debate unless they're going to do it equally for both sides, which he did not, and probably he shouldn't try to.
I wanted to get your take on the substance of a topic area, law and order. There is a study out recently from a University of Utah professor, Paul Castle, that finds that cuts in police funding have led to 710 murders more and more than 2,800 gunshot victims, sort of excess murders and excess gunshot victims across the United States. He's sort of updated Heather McDonald's Ferguson effect, and he's calling this the Minneapolis effect this summer because of the unrest following George Floyd's killing. And one more bit of information to get your take on this law and order issue. The individual accused of shooting those two officers in Compton has been arrested. He's a 36-year-old. And the subhead here that hasn't been covered very well to this point, and you would think it would be such a high-profile shooting, is a characteristic of these terrible stories that is often all too often part of this terrible story, which is 2 weeks before he shot those two cops, he was arrested for carjacking, and he's also going to face carjacking charges. Well, why was he on the street and able to shoot those two cops if 2 weeks earlier he had been arrested for carjacking? This is the non-prosecution culture that is not getting enough play, and I wish Trump would have mentioned more of that, too, in the discussion of law and order on Tuesday night.
So you're saying the guy who shot the cops wasn't a Proud Boy? Because that seems to be the most important topic going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a few hundred people in that group dominated the conversation rather than speaking about the widespread looting and lawlessness and arson and murder that has gone on, for the past 3-4 months or longer even. I'm not an expert on prosecution and things of that nature, but as a political matter, I think that is a huge issue that, that Trump should definitely be more specific about. Trying to make Joe Biden say law and order is okay, I think, for a minute, but then he should have been more specific about the things that Joe Biden refuses to condemn, because there's so much gaslighting going on in the media right now. I'm not sure that a lot of people even understand what's been happening. The media has literally turned this conversation into something about the Proud Boys and white supremacy, which is, listen, of course you should condemn white supremacy, but the vast majority of violence and looting and burning has been going on, has been perpetrated by the left. and yet we can't talk about it.
Well, right, and this is where it seems to me this is such a high-profile case, and thankfully those officers survived. That you need a story that gives form to the point, and you just need one or two on relevant topics, and I think it really brings it home. And then you can't, and then you don't let Joe Biden get away or other Democrats get away with this sort of back of the hand. Of course, law and order, blah blah blah. Let's talk about COVID some more.
Right. So I think that you're right about that. And Trump's actually, one of the things he did rather well was tell a story about, someone, whatever he was talking about losing a business, whatever it is. And there are plenty of terrible stories to tell about the lawlessness that's gone on. I think he needs to do a better job with that. Well, part of what happened, I think, the other night was that he felt like he needed to get a lot out, and he was kind of worked up, or maybe it was a plan to show dominance, etc. But I think that he could slow down and tell those kinds of stories. It's pretty powerful.
One other topic I wanted your feedback on. Lindsey Graham's campaign event that was masquerading as a Senate committee hearing with Jim Comey. I mean, there's been a lot of news in this area of the failed coup attempt, and Jim Comey was Jim Comey. I just wonder, but by the way, Sean Davis over at the Federalist was on with Tucker Carlson last night talking about Gina Haspel, now a new name, the CIA director, as an impediment to getting answers for the American people, as an impediment to transparency. She's sitting on documents that need to be declassified, he claims. Well, if all that's true, is it incumbent upon Trump to not only act in furtherance of declassifying information that would help to provide the rest of the story to be delivered to the American people before they make their decision on November 3rd, and that he needs to do that and then also discuss that? Or is it just, despite this being, I think, just a massive precedent-setting story about a coup attempt by senior people in an outgoing administration and the chief law enforcement agency and chief spy agency? Is it just the fact that it's just too few people who care right now? All you're doing is talking to even a sliver of your base, and so we should just throw up our hands and concede defeat to the left?
I've always been, he's always acted in a way that I don't understand on this issue, in the sense of releasing information, and it seems to be reluctant in some sense. I don't know. But clearly I do think, listen, I think most American people just hear, most Republicans hear coup and hear that there was a failed coup attempt, and in a sense they're right, and they don't need any more specifics to convince them, right? But from my view, this is one of the it was a huge conspiracy. It's not a theory anymore, and it was meant to undermine the legitimacy of the presidency and to stop Donald Trump from governing from within the executive branch. And that's just something that, I hate saying worse than Watergate, but it has to be one of the biggest scandals in presidential history, certainly modern presidential history, and it's not treated that way. I'm not sure what we can do to spread the word, because the media simply won't cover it. Not in the way that's honest. So I don't know what the best political angle would be, but clearly I think there should be transparency, and the American people deserve to know, or at least to have the information out there so they can learn about what really happened, which we still really don't know yet, and we need more information. So, yeah.
He is David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun, From the Revolution to Today. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it